Hello, I'm Becky Chiswick, Executive Director of Gwen Sector Creative Living Center at Siglo Place. Gwen Sector, in partnership with the Rady JCC, would like to welcome you to Familiar Faces. Thank you to the Asper Foundation and the Babs Asper Center for Cultural Arts, and thank you to the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg for your ongoing support of our agencies. This week's familiar face is Lauren Cogan. Lauren is an active member of the Winnipeg Jewish community and is currently studying business in her first year at Western University. I have a fun fact for you. Lauren was an instrumental part of the Gwen Sector meal program for isolated seniors that launched this past spring. Lauren is joined by her mother, Jessica, and grandmother, Abigail. Today, they sit down with Dan Seidman as Lauren shares with us her coming out story. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome.
Hi, Lauren, Jessica, and Abigail. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you come in here and tell us your story today.
Awesome. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lauren. I grew up in the Winnipeg Jewish community. I attended Grey Academy, starting in JK, all the way up until grade 8. I went to BB camp over the summer. I was an active member in BBYO, and as Becky had just mentioned, I volunteered at Gwen Sector. Growing up, I came from a very loving Jewish home. We celebrated Hanukkah, Passover, all the holidays. And I had many Jewish friends. But there was always a little something that felt a bit different about me. And I can never quite pinpoint what it was. And it wasn't until around the age of 12 years old when most kids, start to show an interest in other kids. And they start to show an interest in, who they might like, that I started feeling very out of place, like I don't really like boys. What's going on here? Like it was very strange for me. So I was 12 years old and I had just come back from BB camp. And I'm sure many people here know about BB camp, Camp Masad. It's one of the Jewish camps that a lot of Jewish kids go to over the summer. And I was feeling this feeling in my stomach because there was someone who I'd really liked at the camp. And I was like, okay. I just come home and I was just sitting alone. I was like, what is this feeling I'm feeling? And all of a sudden it hit me and I was like, okay, this is a feeling of liking someone. And I never really liked someone before, liked someone like that. But the only difference, the strange part about it was this wasn't a boy. In my entire life, I felt like I was always told that one day I'm going to find a man and I'm going to marry this man. And I was very concerned. I was like, what's going on here? This isn't a man. This is someone who's the same gender as me. And at first I was very relieved. I was like, this makes sense. I always felt very out of place. And now I finally figure out, this is why I felt different. But instead of accepting that part about me, unfortunately, I kind of hid that away because I didn't realize that I was allowed to feel this way. I thought, from what I'd never grown up hearing about two people of the same gender liking each other, and I didn't think that was allowed. So I hid it away. So I'm 12 years old, and I tell nobody. I don't tell my friends. I don't tell my parents. Nobody knows. So about a year later, I'm at a bar mitzvah, or a b'nai mitzvah, and I'm sitting there, and a year has gone by, and I haven't told a single soul about how I felt and this feeling I had, this attraction towards another woman, essentially. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sure many of you have experienced, you're at the point in the bar mitzvah where the DJ puts on the slow song, right? And the girl and the guy, so the girl or the guy ask each other to dance, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, but I don't want to dance with the guy. That's not who I'm attracted to. I don't feel anything, towards guys. So I got really frustrated. I'm just sitting there and there's like all these thoughts going through my head. And I look at my friend and I'm like, I have to say something. Like I have to tell someone about this because this is eating me alive. So I look to my friend and I say, hey, can you go for a walk with me? And I'm at the Fort Garry Hotel, right? So if anyone knows the Fort Garry Hotel, we like go into the elevator and we like, we're just like going up and down the elevator and he's like, what is it? I'm like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. Like, I'm gonna tell you, but I can't tell you right now. And he was super gracious and super nice about it. He's like, I'm here when you're ready to tell me, you tell me. So maybe a half an hour's gone by and I finally just sit him down and I'm like, I look at him and I'm like, I'm shaking. I'm like, how is he gonna react? Because I have no idea how he's gonna react. I had no friends who I knew that were gay. But I look at him and all of a sudden I just say it. And I feel like I almost like, it just came out. Like I forgot I had even like said it. Like at 1 second I didn't say it, the next second it was out of my mouth. I felt like I wasn't like, it was an out of body experience almost. So I look at him and I'm like, how is he gonna react? And he gives the best reaction. He looks at me and he says, he doesn't say anything actually. He just says, can I give you a hug? And he hugs me. And that's all I needed to know. I knew that my friend was there for me and that I told the first person that I was gay, and that was, you would think, a big weight off my shoulders, but that very second I want to take it back. I didn't want anyone to know that I was gay. I wasn't ready to come out. Even though he had this amazing reaction. But it's not quite that simple, right? I told one person, but that doesn't mean that all my friends are going to react that way, or my siblings are going to react that way, or my parents, who are, most important in my life, or my grandmother are going to react that way. So I didn't tell anyone for an entire year and a half after that. And there were several things that come up between that year and a half since I'd come out to my first friend until I started coming out to everyone else. There was at one point, there was a few things along the way that really helped me come out eventually. When I went to Grey Academy, this was in grade 8, they had a GSA called Keshet, and I used to attend those meetings. Not many of my friends attended them. So I was, the first time walking into that meeting, it was that same kind of feeling, that shaking, that I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but I remember walking in there and there were so many people in that room who were a part of the LGBT community, but also allies who were just there to support us. So that was a very big stepping stone and something that really helped me. And I remember going on a Grey Academy retreat as well, where they actually had a student sit down and talk to us about what it was like being gay and giving his experience. He's about 4 years older than me, so that was an incredible experience because I felt like he was talking directly to me. Like every single word he said really hit home with me. So all those events, and I just like building up courage on my own. At the end of grade 9, so this is 2.5 years after I'd initially realized that I was gay, I decided to go to a pride parade. And I didn't tell my parents. A few friends had actually known that I had come out to a few friends at my school, but my parents didn't know. And right before the pride parade, I actually sat my sister down and I told her, hey, I'm going to Pride, I'm gay, like, don't tell mom, don't tell dad, don't tell anybody, like, they can't know, they're gonna be so mad, like, oh my goodness. I think my parents were at the cabin. So I go to this Pride parade with my friend, and for me, it was very incredible seeing, like, so much support, and there was just so many people there, like, allies, gay people, queer people there, just, like, so proud to be out, and that was just such an incredible moment for me. Like, I think I bought a big, like, rainbow pride flag. I'll come back to that, why I bought that. And one of the biggest things being at Pride was seeing that there was actually a Jewish float there, a float from the Jewish community, and just, like, I had no idea they had a float. Like, I had given, like, zero thought into going to Pride, and I show up and I'm like, wow, like, this is my community. These are two of my communities merging. And that was, like, I was kind of taken aback by it. But that really is what sparked my, like, that really allowed me to, like, be like, okay, it's okay. I can be Jewish and I can be gay. Because I think that's something that people look at and they're like, you have to choose, but you don't have to choose. You can be both. So to kind of wrap up my coming out story, that evening, I was so inspired that I went home with my rainbow flag, and I walked into my mom's room, and I take it, and it's like, it might have been like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I take it, and I throw the flag at her, and I say, "Taste the rainbow." That's like a Skittles phrase. And she just looks at me, and I think she could kind of get the message right away. She's like, "Hey, like, are you coming out to me?" And I was like, "Yep." And then I kind of just walked out of the room, and she's like, "Okay, wait, come back here." And my dad wasn't in the room. I think he was like typically like he usually watches TV till like late into the night, and he's like downstairs fast asleep. But I'm with my mom, and we had like a bit of a conversation about it. And she's like, "Do you want me to tell your dad, or do you want to tell your dad?" I don't remember who ended up telling my dad, but I think the next morning he knew. And actually, I think it was me, and I think I told him, and he was like, "Okay, that's cool." We had like a 2-minute conversation, and at the time I was like very into basketball, and he's like, "So like your next basketball game?" He like just jumped into something else, like didn't even faze him. But that was my coming out story to my parents. And then I don't quite remember how I came out to my grandmother. I think that may have been my mother who helped me out there. But that's pretty much my coming out story. Yeah.
That's great, Lauren. Thank you so much. It's very brave of you to come out and tell this kind of story. Jessica, what's kind of your version when Lauren came out to you?
So I was laying in bed after a long, weekend at the cottage. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night. And of course, that's when teenagers like to come and speak to you, right? Just as you're kind of drifting off to sleep, all of a sudden they come with whatever issues that they need to speak to you about. So as Lauren recounted, she walked into the room and I said, "Hi, honey, how was the Pride Parade?" And she looks at me and she takes off her rainbow flag and throws it on the bed. And I said, "Oh, you got a flag, isn't that nice?" And she just kind of looks at me and cocks her head. Now, I don't know if Lauren she was nervous. I don't know if she came into the room prepared for a fight, prepared for an argument. I mean, she really, for all intents and purposes, didn't know how I was going to react. So, she said, "Taste the rainbow." And I was like, "Eh?" And I said, "Are you trying to tell me something?" And she's like, "Well?" And I said, "The flag?" "Well?" And I said, "Lauren, are you trying to tell me something?" She's like, "Yes, Mom, I'm gay." And I looked at her and I said, "Okay." And she said, "That's it?" I said, "Mazel tov."
That's as good an answer as you can give. Yeah.
I'm like, okay. She said, "That's all you have to say?" I said, "Sweetheart, not a big surprise for me, dear." So that was it.
So the relationship between the two of you and even the three of you, did you feel kind of stronger or more connected after Lauren came out to you, or how did that change anything in your relationship?
Not honestly, no, not really.
No?
No, it stayed the same because, as I alluded to, I don't know what it was, mother's instinct or whatever, but I knew from a very young age that there was a very good possibility that Lauren, might be gay, and so it's not a thing in our house. It's just that's Lauren, and that's part of who she is, and Lauren, we are very close with Lauren. We're very close with all three of our children. And, not a lot of secrets in our house, and we just love and support each other. So, no, it didn't really change anything. What about you as a grandma? Did it feel like it?
I'll be lying if I say everything is fine. For me, I felt a little bit disappointed. My sweet Lauren, how can this happen? How can this happen to us? But then I have worked with a lot of gay people, and not that I didn't know what it was all about. So I just said, my husband also always said, acceptance is an answer for everything. So that is what I did, and decided that I'll support her and I will love her just as much as any of my grandchildren.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But
So-
sorry, if we can, just, Mom, if you want to just maybe elaborate a little bit on the disappointment that you felt. It was about what your expectations were for Lauren's
I
life.
was a little disappointed what her life is going to be. She is a beautiful girl, just big heart, very caring. I kind of worried about what her future is going to be, but I think she'll do okay. She'll do more than okay.
It's definitely even different from when I was a teenager. I feel the community really embraces and supports Pride in general. We see it everywhere. We see flags, and even our Portage and Main is painted a rainbow, and it just shows as a city we really support that.
Well, yeah, Dan, growing up in the 80s,
Yeah.
right? It was a big deal if someone came out. Now it's okay, it's nothing.
We accept people
Yeah.
as who they are.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely.
How about yourself? Like, do you have parents, or have you had, like, Lauren has become a vocal leader in our community for the LGBTQ plus community. Do you have other parents coming to you, maybe asking questions or curious about their own children?
Yeah, I have had a couple instances, where, someone called us up whose son had not quite come out yet, I don't think, but she suspected, and, they were working on communication. She spoke to you, didn't she, Lauren?
Yes. It was one of my parents' friends, and her son who had recently come out, and she was looking for kind of a mentor for her son, someone who her son could connect with, and she had reached out to my parents to connect with me, and we had a couple chats, me and her son and one of her son's friends. So
That's great. Have you had other parts in the community where you've been able to be a mentor to others?
yeah, so I'm a part of an organization actually, where we actually mentor university-age students, mentor high school-aged LGBTQ students. So that's something I've been a part of. I think I'm at like a place in my life where I'm able to give back, and I'm confident in who I am, that I'm able to help other, gay youth kind of figure out who they are and form that community when the community is so small.
So now we hear the phrases LGBTQ plus kind of in the community, or it's kind of become part of our language. But if you don't know what the initials stand for, can you give us a little bit more of a background on the term and
Absolutely.
terms?
Yeah, I think that's something that can be very confusing for people if you don't, if you're not like in the community or you're not exposed to that language. I think oftentimes, like, even you hear me using some of that terminology interchangeably, and some of it is, but it all has like its own meaning as well. And some of that meaning is dependent on like the person as well and how they see it. But to kind of give it a bit of a breakdown, so the L stands for like lesbian. The G stands for gay, and lesbian is usually directed towards like women who like other women, and gay is usually directed towards like men who like other men, except I think gay is more like a umbrella term as well that anyone can also use. And B is for bisexual, so that's someone who likes both genders. And then the T is for transgender. And I guess one thing I would like to kind of break up is the LGB is more about sexuality. And sexuality is who you like, who you're attracted to. And then the T for transgender, that's not sexuality, that's your gender. So that's gender identity, like gender expression. So you can be like transgender, let's say, or you could have a different like gender identity, such as like non-binary or transgender, but also have a gender expression that is gay as well. So so one of them is sexuality, while the other one, who you like, and the other one is how you express yourself. What is your gender, right? So that's LGBT, and then the Q, queer, is an umbrella term for like the whole queer community. I use queer quite a bit, and the pluses, there are many other letters that are in the acronym that represent different people and different identities.
Thanks for giving us that kind of information and background. So we talked about a little bit about Gay Pride Parade because it's a place where you can feel safe and really kind of be embraced by other people. And it's not just for people in that community. It goes out for other people to come out and support, so that they support that kind of community. Yourselves, Mom and Grandma, have you found a way that you were able to kind of support Pride?
Every year I say I want to go, and Lauren says I'm not allowed to go. So, when she was co-president of her school, they had a day, I guess, a Pride Day, and she allowed me to make Jell-O squares to hand out to the kids at school. They're rainbow Jell-O squares. So she allowed me to do that, and I've made cookies and things like that. But
Wait, just to clarify, though, I did not say you cannot come. I said you can't come with me.
Oh.
You have every right to go to Pride and support the community.
Okay. Well, because when I threatened that I was going to go with a T-shirt that said "Free Mom Hugs," she said, "No,
Nope.
no, you are not doing that." So, but one day I will.
Okay.
And how about you, Grandma? What has been your involvement with
I was
any
never
of it?
asked to go on the parade, but if I'm asked, I would love to go.
Once
Wonderful.
COVID is done, we'll go together.
We'll put her on the float.
Yeah, you'll go on the float with me. Fun. Yeah, Mom Abbie will come, not you though.
Oh, okay.
To me, it doesn't make any difference. She's my beautiful granddaughter and a wonderful person, and that's all I care about.
Very
There
true.
you
Like,
go.
well, lucky to work with Lauren over the summer, and it was really great to kind of get a chance to kind of meet and just see what a diverse person she was with her sports and kind of education background, and then you putting this on top of it, and just shows what a well-rounded person you really are, Lauren. So I want to, thank you very much for always being kind of coming out and then just being a mentor to other people and just being a role model, even if it's kind of comes as a surprise to you.
Yeah. I'm very lucky to have a supportive family who's been there throughout all of this.
And, I just wanted to add that Lauren has a really great and supportive coming out story,
Yeah.
right? Like, in our family, this is not a thing at all. This is part of who she is. But for a lot of families, right, it's difficult. It is not, when you deliver your little baby into the world, might not be what you envisioned for them, for their future, right? That's what my mom was alluding to. Yeah. Are they going to get married? Are they going to have children? You build up all these expectations for your kids, and you have in your mind what their life is going to be. But for kids like Lauren, for young adults like Lauren, they have their own vision as to what their life is going to be. And they, as a parent, there's that inkling that, I'm worried about this child. I'm worried about what she's going to face in the world. Lauren has had a couple of experiences that were not very supportive and that were quite discriminatory. And so as a parent, you think, you really don't want them to go through that, and you worry about that. But I'll tell you something that what really occurs to me is, yes, certain parts of their life are going to be harder than if they were just straight, a straight girl or boy. So yes, certain parts of their life are going to be harder, but you know what's going to be harder than that is if they don't live their own authentic lives, if they're not their authentic selves, if they have to try and navigate this world and this life trying to be something they're not, then that's what's going to make their life the hardest you can imagine.
That's very powerful. Just reminding people to always be yourself as much courage as it takes, because you're going to be happier in the end.
And as families, accepting them for who they are and supporting them no matter what, because their job is to find their own happiness, and it's our job to support them doing so.
Wonderful. So you mentioned kind of briefly there that you did have a couple negative reactions. What were the strengths that you got from that?
Yeah, I had a couple negative reactions. I think it just, I think most people are gonna face some kind of negativity. But just with each one, learning how to cope with that and deal with it and stay calm, cool, and collected, because Like some people just don't understand, and some people you have to give time to wait for them to like understand and let them like figure it out themselves, and some people just will never understand. And you have to understand, like as a queer person, you have to understand when you have to give someone space, when you have to, or just when you have to walk away, because there are times where you'll never, like that person will never see who you are and never accept who you are. So you have to kind of identify and know how to react to that.
Wow, that's really quite insightful, especially for a young adult, to recognize when other people need some space and realizing that things always take time. Nothing gets turned so quickly. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice that you would give to somebody who's kind of a young adult who's just not sure?
Yeah, I have advice, I guess, for really anyone who's, questioning their gender identity or their sexuality, and that you're never too old or too young to come out. It doesn't matter where you are in life. You're never too old or too young to live your authentic self. So definitely like reach out and talk about it and seek help, and yeah.
How about you, Jessica, as a mom? Any advice to other parents who might see that their child might be part of the LGBT community in the future, but they're just...
I would say, give them their space. Yeah. Give them their space. They'll come out when they feel comfortable to do so, and just create as best you can a supportive environment where they know unequivocally that they have your support, that the family loves them, that they are accepted no matter what for who they are or what their interests are. Just, I know what it is, unconditional love, period.
How about you, Grandma? You might have other friends who are having grandchildren that are coming out, and now you're put as a bit of a role model. Any advice to those grandparents that might...
I haven't come across anybody that has, or they don't tell me. Yeah. Yeah. So I really haven't had that discussion, and nobody has asked me how I'm, reacting to Lawrence coming out. So I really couldn't answer that.
Sounds good. Well, I want to thank all three of you for coming out today. Lauren, especially sharing your story, and you two as parents and grandparents being able to share the support that you're able to give her. We really hope that this series opens up people's eyes and just gives a little bit of insight to how we've changed in our community. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Dan.
If you can relate to this story and are looking for resources, please feel free to contact the Jewish Child Family Services or Rainbow Resource Center. Thank you.